Hi, my name is Amy Farrell, and I'm a budget manager for Pasco County and the recipient of the 2020 Examiner Excellence Award. Once a month, I get together with the subject of our latest Sterling Spotlight and talk about their personal and professional journeys to excellence. For today's October Spotlight, I'm talking with Bob Goehrig, Budget Director of Pasco County, Master Examiner, and Trainer for this year's Examiner and Assessment Cycle. He has served with Sterling since 2013, has been a team leader since 2014 for assessments, both big and small, and we are oh so excited to talk with him today about his Sterling journey to excellence. As the Director of the Office of Management and Budget in Pasco County and a Master Examiner for the Florida Sterling Council, how are you able to use the Sterling principles to make meaningful change within the county?
Good question. Meaningful change is the key. So I think one of the things that Sterling teaches us is moving from reacting to problems. So when someone's down the street screaming about their trash didn't get picked up, right? So reacting to that particular problem, moving more towards being proactive, and then moving towards being able to anticipate issues or problems. And so that's where we're trying to move as we move through our Sterling journey. We become more and more mature in our processes. And so there's a couple of things that, in order to move from reactive to anticipatory, you've got to have a couple of things in place. And one of those, of course, is data. So being a results lead and being a finance person, you'd never be able to guess, right, that that performance measures are important. But to move from those, you've got to define what are your outcomes, what is it you're trying to achieve. And so that's what we're trying to do with OMB. We're trying to decide what it is that we want to achieve. And so one of the ways we've done that is to create this process within our strategic planning process, which we call our business planning process. So in the old days, we had our strategic plan, was a 4-year plan, and then we had our annual budgets where we would go out and people would let us know what kind of money they would need. And then once they got their money, they would go forth and deliver resources or deliver services to the various citizens. So what we've done is between those two steps, we have inserted a business plan. So we have the strategic plan, which lays out the long-range goals of our elected body, the commission. And the strategic plan tries to break that long-range goal into manageable steps. So each year, as you try to move towards a goal, each year you're going to take 1/4 of that and you're going to move towards that goal in incremental, well thought out steps, right, to try to get us to that goal. And so what that does then is that helps us to prioritize where we're going to go, helps us identify what resources we need, and then it also helps us to know, are those resources going to be sufficient to get us where we need to go? So it helps us in our decision making. So if we decide, for example, in any particular year, should something like a pandemic occur and you don't have like Bill Gates here, I'm thinking ahead.
Right?
So if you have something like a pandemic where your resources are diminished, then you have some idea what impact that's going to have on your ability to achieve your goals.
So I noticed in the background you have these fancy, really large Post-its with these other smaller colored Post-its. Talk to me about what's going on there.
Good eye, man. Yeah, can you see that? So our friends out there in Never Never Land. So what we've got there is we've got the Post-its on my wall, and you can notice that very fine penmanship on those posters. And so what we've got there is each one of those flip charts is a goal within our strategic plan. And then the stickies on there, notice how they're color coded. The stickies on there are in a business plan, we have asked our department directors to tell us what performance measures do they use to manage their business. And so the stickies on those goals are the performance measures that our directors have said, these are the measures that I use. And so we've taken those measures and we've aligned them to a particular goal. And the idea is that as we're trying to define key intended outcomes or key performance measures for each of the goals, we need to know what are we currently measuring, and are those measures going to help us determine whether or not we've achieved those goals. And so that's why we've got those measures up there, so we can look at them and say, as is our case, most of these measures are process measures. So there's not a lot of outcome measures here. And so when we're measuring performance or measuring how well we're doing in achieving a strategic plan, we really want to look at outcomes. Have we achieved anything? Is anyone better off for us having delivered the services that we've delivered?
And to your point, right, this kind of demonstrates the level of maturity that an organization might be at. So admittedly, when you're looking at a strategic plan and you don't have well-defined outcomes, it's usually indicative that that organization is still kind of new in its process, right?
Yeah.
Still going through some maturation, so to speak.
Yeah, normally, a lot of times what you see in an organization just beginning the process, they're going to give you the data that they have, not necessarily the data that they wish they had, because when you're early in the process, you don't have this data. You haven't thought through the whole process. And so as we've learned in our Criteria 101 class, we need in-process measures and we need outcome measures. And I think what we're finding here is we've got a lot of in-process measures. We're measuring a lot of efficiency and effectiveness of our processes, which makes sense. If you're a manager of a process, you want to know, is your process operating efficiently and effective? But as public servants, we need to understand at the end of the day, have we actually achieved anything?
And so with your years of experience and expertise, not just with Sterling, but with Baldrige, and your results expertise, you've been able to love us through this process in the county and kind of embrace us and teach us what we need to be doing better in order to, keep progressing on our journey through performance excellence.
Thank you. Yeah, I think your department directors, so that's the journey we've gone through, is getting your department directors to understand. You keep asking me for these performance measures. Why? Why are you asking me for these? So that's your first step. The second step is fear, right? I've given you these performance measures. You've set goals, or we've set goals collectively. And now I'm going to be in trouble if I don't achieve these goals. And now what we're trying to get them to understand is the reason we're asking for goals is because we want to be able to understand, do you have the resources you need to achieve those goals? So the worst thing you can do with a performance measure is to use it as a club to motivate your people. And so as soon as you use your performance measures as a goal, then you begin having department directors and other people who are reporting this data begin to game the data. And so you'll see that things aren't reported accurately, they're not reported on time, or goals are set up that are so easy that you know you're going to achieve them. So that's kind of where we're trying to get our department directors and trying then finally to get them to understand, how do they use these measures to manage, right? Because a lot of times it's kind of a seat of the pants. Yeah, this feels good, let's do this. And it could be that what you're doing currently just happens to be the squeaky wheel. It's not something that's important. It's not something that's crucial. It's not something that's moving you towards the destination you're trying to get to.
So in Pasco County, we now have 13 registered examiners, right? That's pretty impressive.
That's good.
So how do you think the environment in the county has changed, and what do you think is driving all of this Sterling participation?
Yeah, so 13 examiners. I had no idea we had that many, but it seems like 13. Yeah, it seems like a lot more, really, because what's happened is that not only we have 13 active examiners, we've also had employees that used to be examiners. And so we have that expertise in our wheelhouse as well. And I think what that's done is it's created a lot of excitement within the organization. It's created a lot of this can-do attitude. We understand Sterling. We know where we're trying to go. We know what we're trying to accomplish. And so I think it's created a lot of excitement for this journey. And it's also created this idea that you have more hands trying to love us through this, right? So it's not just you and I and Mark trying to push this thing forward. You've got 13 other people out there that understand what it is that we're trying to do, and they can console people and massage people and help them understand that it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. So that's really that's really what's, I think the main part is it's created that excitement and some can-do attitude.
I think I think it might be also indicative of the commitment that our county leadership has in the process and in our journey through excellence, because even amidst a pandemic, we made sure that we were able to tuck aside some resources to still send 13 individuals through training, and we all know it's not free.
That's right. Right. And that shows the leadership's commitment to this, because it would have been easy in the pandemic to say, oh, got a pandemic, who's got time for all the Sterling stuff, right? And it's really showing a commitment to Sterling, is that we understand we need to improve, and we're going to keep pushing this no matter what happens.
Right. And it's sometimes in instances like a pandemic when you need something like the Sterling management model to lean on the most.
Yes, exactly. Sterling helps you to prioritize, helps you understand what's important, what's not important, and it helps you prioritize and move you along in the direction you need to go.
So we're kicking off our very first virtual training cycle. It's exciting, right? And peoples might not know it, but if they signed up for next week, they're going to be hanging out with you and me again.
You got it, man. They got us again.
So you're returning for another year, and you've agreed to facilitate the training again. Tell us about this new format and what our examiners can look forward to next week, besides your punny jokes.
They can look forward to a lot of jokes, a lot of donkey jokes. They can look forward to hearing about Amy chasing down a very fast chicken. That's a little something to look forward to. People at WellStar know what we're talking about. But it is a virtual training, so for you folks out there that are very busy, that's kind of nice. And now you're not traveling to Largo or Miami or wherever. You can do this from the comfort of your office or your car. So it's going to cut down on your travel time.
We don't recommend while driving.
Not while driving, no. Go out to the Walmart parking lot out there.
That was not a recommendation.
Exactly. Let your spouse drive, and then you can partake. But it's a very exciting new format. So we've got Criteria 101. The second session will be kicking off Monday morning, as a matter of fact. And so we've done one class already. We've broken it up into 2 3-hour, 4-hour sessions. So you're not committing a full day. And what the format is that you or I will be kind of walking through some foundational material, whether it be meaning of the criteria, the core values, or how to score an item, something like that. And after that, then we have a number of exercises that we're going to do to give you some experience actually using whatever foundational item we've just been talking about. So one of the interesting things about Zoom is that we're able to go into breakout rooms. And so we've taken, I think we have 60 people in class on Monday.
You do. You're very famous and popular. People love you.
They want to hear about that chicken.
They do.
And so we've got 60 people. We're going to break you up into 10 teams, and you go into breakout rooms, and then you're able to work together in kind of a virtual environment. And the nice thing about that is when you're in the breakout rooms, the students or the participants in each of the breakout rooms can share their screens with one another. And so you can see what each other's doing, and you can kind of walk through that process together, and then you come up with hopefully some deliverable, or you've had some aha moment during your breakout rooms. Then we'll come back together, and then we'll ask folks to, 1 or 2 brave folks, we'll ask them to share with the rest of the group what it is that they've learned.
We had some fun practicing those breakout rooms and figuring out the annotation tool. That was pretty
Exactly, yes. And you, as a student, you get to practice with Zoom, because we're going to ask you to go in and change your name. You know, at the bottom you have the names, and man, it's just going to be, it's going to be exciting.
Everyone's going to be so savvy by the end of this.
That's right.
Though I kind of feel like I was a late Zoom adopter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
right,
before I was just a Zoom user.
Right? Like
now we're just like zooming around in Zoom.
Barely a Zoom participant.
Now I can change my background even.
No, we're hosting.
Yeah, but who would want to change this lovely background?
I wouldn't.
No, heck no.
So rumor on the street is you don't just do budget, right? So rumor on the street is you also do some farming.
Yes.
Some legit farming, like
Yeah.
acres worth of hydroponic, in-ground, like you name it, you grow it. Mushrooms out of tree trunks.
Yeah, mushrooms out of tree trunks. You listened.
Sometimes.
Yeah, man.
So tell us about how Sterling has helped you improve your farming over the years.
Oh, wow, that's a good one. Yeah, so as you say, 7 acres that I have in Spring Hill near Avalon, near Hernando County. And it's an interesting process. The people that I work with actually have begun calling it Sterling Farm, because if I'm gone from the office for any length of time, they say, "Where were you?" And I say, "Well, I was at a Sterling meeting." And so of course they say, "Yeah, sure, right. You were at Sterling Farm is where you were, not at Florida Sterling."
Right, just home with your tomatoes.
Exactly. Who would think such a thing? So I think a couple of things that you learn from Sterling is that you begin to see everything as a process. Once you're involved in Sterling, everything's a process. When you're standing in line at the grocery store, you're like, I could make this process simpler, you know? And so I think that's kind of the same as when you're farming. So as you pointed out, I have the traditional in the dirt kind of farm, right? And so that's an interesting process. And so then I looked at that process and how could we maybe improve that process? And so then I've got that traditional, and then I've improved that and innovative. I went through Adley and got some innovation. And so now I've got a rather large hydroponic farming operation going at the same time as we have the traditional in the dirt kind, and then we have a mushroom farm where we plant mushroom seeds. I don't know if you've ever seen a mushroom seed, but they're microscopic. So we put mushroom seeds in logs, cover them with wax, and let them grow for 6 or 9 months, and then out blooms some mushrooms.
That's a time commitment. That's like growing a baby.
That is like a serious thing. We'll see what we get first. Do we get a baby or do we get mushrooms first?
I don't know. I feel like we're in a tight race.
It's gonna be fun. And so some of the things I think you learn from Sterling is not only a process. So for example, where I moved down from Florida from the northeast part of this country in the Pennsylvania, Maryland area, and you think that when you move down, you think that you're in Florida, all you have to do is take a seed and plop it in the ground and it will grow. No. Oddly enough, the only thing that will grow in Florida are weeds. And so no matter how many seeds you put in the ground, they don't grow. So you've got to change your process. You've got to look at your process. You got to have a process improvement, right? To go about how do you grow things in Florida. So it's a different process depending on where you are, what part of the country you're in. And so one of those things that helps us out is you've got to be able to steal shamelessly, right? You have to be able to say, I don't have all the answers. Someone's got all the answers. And for me, that someone is Whitney, right? Our agricultural extension agent. I pester Whitney all the time and doing research and all kinds of different things. So you've got to be able to understand that you don't have all the answers and that you're willing to steal shamelessly from other people. Another thing that helps me on my farm is I take customer input, right? And so my main customers are Amy Lee and Cece and my bride, right? And so I've planted lots of things, and then they go, why did you plant that? I don't like okra or eggplant or whatever it might be. And so I spent a lot of time at first growing some things because they were cool. And then nobody really wants to eat them. So we take that customer input and we use that customer input to plant the kinds of things that our customers are interested in. And then I think you've got to have some kind of strategic idea or some strategic vision where you want to go. And then that strategy helps you with your ability to tolerate risk. Because one thing about farming is you either have too much water, not enough water, too much sun, not enough sun, right? There's never perfect conditions. And so you've got to be able to, what is it you're trying to achieve so that you're able to better tolerate those risks? And I think if you know where you're going, then that helps you as far as understanding those. And then pilot testing is another big thing that you've got to do.
So is your like long-term vision retirement?
No, I can't retire until Cece's out of.
Retire on the farm?
Retire at Sterling Farm. Mm-hmm.
No longer have to buy produce?
Absolutely, yeah.
Ah, that's fun. So through life, right, we generally meet people who, yeah, it's all through life, right? We meet people who either officially or unofficially mentor us and teach us and help us grow and develop through, areas in our professional and personal life where we're passionate. So for you, as from when you worked for Baldrige, coming through Sterling, who was your main mentor and what did you learn from this person?
Yeah, I think one of the things you understand as you go through this Sterling examiner process is that people are always willing to help you out. That's one of the great things about the examiner corps, is that everyone is really works as a family to try to help one another. We understand that, we all succeed. When one of us succeeds, we all succeed. And so it's nice to be able to share our learnings, but also to be able to other people to share with us. So I think back when I first started with Sterling, my first team leader was Beth Pasek, and I think it was interesting to work with her because she was very methodical in how she ran the team, very methodical. She had a plan. She was very good at communicating that plan. And it was sort of, she enabled us to see, okay, we're in this particular step, but this is where we're headed. These are the kinds of things we want to work on. And then after that, she helped me understand she was one of the first results leads that we had in Sterling, right? So for the new folks, you may not realize in the old days, an examiner would do process and results items, and now we've broken that up. So examiners either do process or results. And so she was one of the first examiners that was a process lead. And so she worked with me when she was the first results lead. And she worked with me when I became a results lead to kind of walk me through the process, what it is. You've got all these forms for a process or for a results lead, you got all these forms, what do you submit when, and just, kind of help me through that process.
I'm sure that was very helpful, especially her methodical nature, because if anyone knows Bob's anything but methodical.
Yeah, that's right.
Bob is big picture, long-term vision, but if you want step by step, he's probably not the person to, because he's
that
like,
is not my forte. No.
Just get it done. I told you what I want. Get it done.
Yeah, just figure it out. Yeah.
Right? Like I'm empowering you.
And you see these things on my wall behind me, and you might think, well, that really means you're methodical. No, Amy did that. It's just my wall that she used. I didn't really do that.
I don't have enough wall space in my office.
Exactly.
So I've been very fortunate to work with you and to get to know you, both you and your wife, on a relatively personal level. And so I happen to know that you guys are a bunch of really special people who volunteer your time to help little kids who need just some extra guidance through life, right? So
yeah.
You and your wife run a summer program where you teach social skills through gardening to our young folks who might be on the spectrum. So
exactly, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that and how Sterling has helped you guys kind of create and foster and build upon this summer program.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we created this summer program. It kind of takes advantages of both of our strengths, right? So my wife is smart, and she's personable, and she's lovable, and she has 30 or 40 years experience as a speech language pathologist and working with special education kids. She's been an educator for 30 years and worked with kids on the spectrum. And my forte is I don't mind getting dirty, right? I can haul horse manure around and show it to the kids. And so we started this program. One of the things that those of us who work with kids on the spectrum, whether that be Asperger's or something further along the spectrum, is that these kids, one of the things that isolates these kids is that they really have a difficult time socializing. And so in school, they're isolated. At home, they're isolated. And so one of the things that we've done is created this summer program where we bring these children together with other adults and with children who aren't on the spectrum, and then we teach them social skills. And you think that these are, the most of us take these social skills for granted, and even social skill as in looking at the person who's talking to you, we take that for advantage. A lot of these kids don't realize what those social skills, they don't realize those skills. And so the way we do that to get them to open up is we get out into the dirt and we do some farming. And so we ask them to pick whatever it is that they want to grow, and they pick the seeds, and they grow the seeds they grow the fruit from the seed all the way through, and they pull the weeds, and at the end they've got a tomato or a carrot or a green bean or something that that they can show the rest of the world, and it just brightens their day, and it helps them helps them open up to somebody else, right? So as a kid, an Asperger's kid, what it is that interests you is not really something that interests most other people, but now you've got something that you can talk to other people about. And we have games for them where they, how am I feeling today? And there's a color chart. They put all their color charts together. So for me, I'm just the guy that digs in the dirt. My wife does all the smart thinking pieces of this. And so it's a lot of fun.
I just wanted the people to know just a little bit more about you on a personal level, because I feel very fortunate that I get to, and I realize that not everyone does. So I just wanted to share, or actually you share.
Oh, thank you. Just wanted to have me share. That's a good one.
So those are all of the scripted questions that I had planned for you, and then some kind of one-offy from those scripted ones.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we didn't cover today that we would just be remiss to not discuss?
Wow, that's a good one. Yeah. I think one of the questions I thought might come along is why is Pasco interested in Sterling, right? So you want to do process improvement. Why Sterling? And I think the answer to that, I wish I knew. No, I know the answer to that. The answer to that is those of us who have that are in public service have a service ethic. We want to contribute to the well-being or the quality of life of others. And so we want to continually provide services to our customers, whether they be businesses or residents or visitors. We want to continually be able to provide the services that our customers need and our customers want. But those of us in the public sector know that money doesn't come easily. So generally speaking, the money you have now is probably, you're not going to get any more money. So the way that you are able to meet the needs of your customers with no new resources is to create new resources. And the way you do that is by using the Sterling criteria in order to continually improve your processes. So you're eliminating waste, and those dollars, those resources that went into producing whatever it was that is no longer useful or was produced in a less than efficient way, those resources now can be diverted away from an inefficient use towards a more efficient use.
Well, thank you, Bob. I think that's all we've got for you today. To our listeners, thanks for joining us for our first ever Sterling Spotlight podcast episode. This has been really fun. Be sure to tune in next month while I talk with the subject of our November Spotlight. Have a great rest of your week.